Hello, everyone. I apologize for yesterday. I had to get called out of work very urgently. Um, I did tell the receptionist to contact the MEEN class and tell them that I wouldn't be sending out an online recorded version in addition to the post reflection, but I was informed that did not happen, so I am sorry about that. But I am going to go over the fad diets and we're going to ask questions of menopause. From what I understand, Junie has talked about it a little bit with you guys, so this shouldn't be super new. Um, but just commonly asked things that I get. So one of the reasons I picked this front picture is because I feel like every time you see um, an ad or a sign for like a diet, it's like an apple with a tape measure around it, or like a donut with a tape measure around it. And I feel like it's always just like making you feel guilty for eating these things or making you need to get smaller so you have to eat an apple. And it's just always interesting because if I just looked up the word weight loss, a lot of the first pictures were just apples or donuts, or different foods with tape measure wrapped around it. So I think that does tell us a lot about kind of how fad diets do run a lot of marketing and a lot of idealistics. So first I wanted to talk about the ketogenic diet. So I feel like this one's very common. Most people know about it. It's a high-fat diet. About 60% of the diet is all fat with moderate amounts of protein and extremely low carbohydrates. So generally about 20 to 50 grams of carbs consumed per day. So people aren't really able to eat anything besides like low fruit berries for carbs or very small portions of like potatoes and stuff because it is such a low carbohydrate diet. It is effective for rapid weight loss, but weight will be regained once the diet is terminated. So I'm sure you've experienced yourself or friends who have been on the ketogenic diet and it works well for them. You know, they lost 30 pounds in 4 months or something. But that being said, that diet worked when they were doing it and now they're not doing it and they gained that weight back or some of it or maybe more. So it does help facilitate weight loss. But if you're going to continue that diet for the rest of your life, that is what you would have to continue doing. Um, the reason it was made was not for weight loss. It was made to be used medically for children with epilepsy, but it had gained popularity due to the fact that because when you don't have carbohydrates in your body, obviously carbs hold water in them, which is why it's for athletes, it's really important to eat enough carbs because you want your muscles to stay hydrated so you recover well and don't get muscle cramps. Um, if you don't consume carbs, you're not holding on to that water. And so it became popularized, even though that was not what it was used intentionally for. It can also cause people to overconsume unhealthy fat options, which can increase the risk of heart and health conditions. For example, I feel like you hear everyone adding like cheese and bacon and cream and everything like that to their food, when in reality, those are still highly processed fats. Oh, great in moderation, but you'll see here like this bowl has an avocado, so olive oil, avocados, chia seeds, flax seeds. Those should be making up the primary sources of your fats. Just adding bacon to a sandwich and taking off the bread, like technically, yeah, that makes it keto, but I mean, is that much more healthy for you in the long run over and over again? Or I hear people when they are eating a cup of berries and they add like heavy fat whipping cream to it. Okay, I mean, yes, that does make it keto, but doesn't necessarily make it healthier for you. So kind of thinking through some of those things. So now talking about the application of the ketogenic diet. So this is how it works in your body. The body is deprived of carbs. So insulin secretion is reduced and the body goes into a catabolic state, which means you're breaking down. Anabolic means you're building up. Like when you work out, you want to eat enough protein so your muscles are building. You're anabolic. Catabolic is the opposite. Glycogen stores deplete, which forces the body to change metabolic pathways from gluconeogenesis, which is using glucose or carbs, which is the main one that your body uses. Um, sorry, it switches from using glycolysis to gluconeogenesis and ketogenesis. And so ketogenesis means you're making energy from fat, and then gluconeogenesis is you are making new glucose in your body. So your body, you're not feeding it glucose, so you have to create new glucose. So those words are really big, but that's what that means. And so ketone bodies replace glucose as the primary source of energy. So generally, glucose and sugar is the primary source of energy for our body and our brain. Because we're taking that away from our bodies, our body goes into ketosis. I'm sure you've heard of that. That means ketones are building up in our body, and that is what's now being used as energy instead. So that is your body, in senses, the gluconeogenesis, it's building a new source of sugar. So your body's using ketones instead of sugar. Nutritional ketosis is safe since ketones are produced in the low concentrations, but ketoacidosis is life-threatening. And so that is something that people, I always thought too. I was like, well, ketoacidosis is something that happens with people with diabetes and stuff. And I'm like, well, if you're intentionally putting yourself into ketosis, how is that helpful? And it technically is considered safe. So, that's okay. But obviously, if you're like a diabetic or something, you really do have to watch out, because once you get into ketoacidosis, if your body is creating too much ketones, it creates an acidic environment in your body. It idolizes quick weight loss instead of building sustainable healthy behavior changes. Like I said, it does cause rapid weight loss, but once you stop doing the keto diet, it doesn't work anymore. The side effects from it is you generally always get the keto flu, which is in the first 2 weeks or so. So nausea, vomiting, headaches, fatigue, dizziness, insomnia, low exercise tolerance, constipation, etc. That's because you're literally changing the pathology of your body. And then long-term issues can be hepatic stenosis, so fat builds up in your liver. Low protein levels, because a lot of people will overconsume fats and underconsume proteins. Kidney stones, different deficiencies, and a poor relationship with food. So you start thinking of everything that has carbs in it as bad. So now the low carb diet, so it's similar to keto, but it's not extremely low carb, and the main difference is it's not high fat. So keto is like minute carbs, high fat. Low carb is normal amount of fats, more fats and more proteins in general, and then like a small amount of carbs. So you don't have to have your body be in ketosis. You're just eating less than, like 50% of your body's amount of carbs, if that makes sense, because you should be eating about 50 to 60, and if you're consuming less than that, then you are in like a low carbohydrate state in your body technically. So it limits carbohydrates found in grains, starchy vegetables, legumes, dairy, and fruit, while increasing foods high in protein and fat. You aim to have less than 50% of foods that include carbs and sugar. So a lot of people think about like chips and bread and pasta and stuff, but like yogurt and any dairy also has sugar in it. Fructose is in fruit. Sucrose is just regular sugar. So there's different forms of sugars, and you have to make sure you're eating low amounts of all of those things. Commonly used as a weight loss diet, but can improve risk of type 2 diabetes and metabolic syndrome. So those who are eating a lot of like high carbohydrate meals, who do have high insulin sensitivities, it has been shown that if they go into a more of a lower carb diet, they have healthier labs. And the question is it because they're getting rid of carbs, or is it because the primarily carb sources that they usually eat are more of the bread, pasta, processed things, and now they're being forced to choose other options to replace those things? So like technically you could eat a normal amount of carbs, but it's more like sweet potatoes and legumes and fruits and vegetables, and probably still get most of the same health benefits than a low carb diet, if that makes sense. Ideally prioritizes eating protein, non-starchy vegetables, and fats. So the application is carbohydrates are the body's #1 source of energy, especially during exercise. Complex carbs are a great source of fiber, prebiotics, vitamins, and minerals. So when you don't have those things, that can cause issues with your digestive system and your gut and your microbiota inside of your gut. Complex carbs have less effect on blood sugar levels and is good for your gut because of the fibers and the prebiotics. So instead of just going low carb, you could just choose more nutritious carb types. Like I've stated before, like starchy vegetables like potatoes and peas, squash, stuff like that. Carbs that should be limited would be candy, baked goods, processed foods, sweetened drinks, white bread, etc. Carbs that should be prioritized, and like I just said, you can see them all listed below. It can lead to constipation due to the lack of fiber, like I said. So if you're not getting enough of the fiber and the prebiotics, which is commonly found in plants, which plants usually have carbs in them, you can have the risk of having constipation and stuff. And then severe restriction can lead to the body going into ketoacidosis because you didn't fully switch your body into ketosis, right? So you're not yet using ketones as fuel, but your body still wants to use glucose as fuel. That's what your body wants to do, but if you don't give it enough, it can run into ketoacidosis. So that can cause headaches and bad breath. Unfortunately, my little image on the bottom covers some of the words. I can't really move it, so that just is what it is. So intermittent fasting is an eating style that switches between fasting and eating on a regular schedule. So it's commonly used as a weight loss diet or to manage blood sugars. It can be helpful for weight loss due to putting the person into a caloric deficit. That being said, if you just eat one less meal, right, you're going to be in a caloric deficit, around probably 500, 600 calories a day. So commonly people find benefits in weight loss because of that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the fasting is doing anything. It's more of just the caloric deficit. So your body exhausts its sugar stores and starts burning stored fat, which is known as the metabolic switching. Does not regulate what you eat, just when you eat. So you also can gain weight or maintain the same weight and not lose weight during intermittent fasting because you are not restricted as to what you can eat, just how many hours of the day you can eat. So you could still overeat and binge within those hours of the day. There's lots of different types. So 18 hours of fasting, 6 hours of eating, more of like a noon to, you would maybe fast from like 6 p.m. until noon the next day. 16/8 is the most common. 24-hour fasts, eat 5 days a week, and then you eat a little bit less of the week on 1 to 2 meals. So there's a lot of different options. It's also used in religious purposes and rituals. But I will say there is some great research supporting intermittent fasting in general. It has shown to improve thinking and memory, heart health, physical performance, type 2 diabetes, and obesity. But what's interesting is the research shows that you could actually just fast 12 hours, so not to go as drastic, but just do 12 hours and still reap the benefits. So that just means, say you eat dinner at 7, you sleep through the night, and you eat breakfast next day at 7. So, like I said, it's very healthful to fast, but it's almost like taking it to the extreme where you don't need to do that because it risks like having poor relationship with food, and obviously your metabolism will switch and you can have low insulin levels, etc. So fasting, like I said, is helpful for their body, but 12-hour fasting is really all you need is for the benefits. If you are eating within proper calorie amounts for weight management and exercising, you will have the same effect of burning the sugar and losing the fat as you would in intermittent fasting. So just exercising and eating within normal calories is going to do the same exact thing for you. It can lead to unsafe blood sugar drops for some. Does not follow natural hunger cues, which can lead to poor relationship with food and the binge restriction cycling. So people maybe aren't eating breakfast, but then they're starving right before lunch. So they hit up the vending machine and they just eat way too much at lunch. And then they feel guilty and then they eat less for dinner that night. And then it's just like it's a constant cycle. Or maybe they're like, well, it's already noon, so I'll just like skip lunch too to be skinnier. But then it's 3 p.m. and they just binge a whole bunch of food. So it does create a really poor relationship with food if you're using it for intentional weight loss purposes. For some reason, it is better handled in males than females due to hormonal implications. So obviously, we're females or assigned female at birth in this class, so it's can just be higher risk for us to do that. Going too long without eating may encourage the body to start storing fat in response to starvation, so you don't want your body to do that. It can take up to 4 weeks for the body to adapt, which can be uncomfortable. I did this when I was in college. It took me like 4 months for my body to adapt. I was starving, nauseous, dizzy every single morning. And I was like, you can't eat until noon. It was stupid of me, but like my body really did not like it. It took me a long time to adapt. So Noom is an app that's commonly used. So it's a weight loss program that takes a more psychological approach to eating and lifestyle by building habits for a balanced life, which is great. Need to take a quiz before starting to receive your customized plan. So it's a customized plan, which it's not made like what I would do for people one-on-one, like truly customized. It's more like it gives you, I'm sure there's a plethora of different options, right? And then it kind of just like which one best fits your needs. So that's like your customized plan because you're not necessarily like working with one person unless you upgrade to that option. It does follow a low-calorie diet approach that breaks into 3 categories. So the green foods are foods that you want to eat most of the time. Vegetables, starchy veggies, fruit, non-fat dairy, unsweetened dairy alternatives, grains, unsweetened beverages, low-calorie condiments. And then yellow is lean meats, seafood, low-fat dairy, legumes, and white grains. And then orange, which used to be red, but now it's orange, is your processed meats, burgers, higher fat things like nuts, and higher fat condiments, alcohol, and juice, etc. So it assigns you different foods at different times. So I don't technically agree, like why would low fat like dairy products, seafood, lean meats, and legumes be yellow? That's what I don't understand is those are really good for you. So I understand like why white grains would be yellow, but some of the things just for me don't really necessarily make sense. Some new application prioritizes the success of weight loss instead of improving overall health. As weekly weigh-in is required, and that is the way that they track your progress. So weekly weigh-ins can be helpful for learning nutrient-dense foods versus less nutrient-dense foods. Like at the end of the day, if you look back, the orange foods, obviously were less nutritious than the green foods, so it can help you learn which ones are better than others. It is fairly expensive, so $150 a month to work with a behavioral change coach, so someone that actually works with you. $60 per month cost, and then $50 extra for the mental wellness course. So it can be pretty expensive, whereas meeting with me, for example, is like one-on-one would be like initial evals are $45 and then $35 follow-ups. So usually you'd meet with me twice a month. So significantly like more expensive than that, but obviously within your own financial reason, maybe it's affordable for you. Does encourage regular exercise lifestyle changes, which can be applied for the rest of your life, which is good. It does truly encourage those lifestyle changes, but it can decrease your metabolism due to low calorie requirements, although it does facilitate effective weight loss. People will find effective weight loss on the program, but because it's putting you in a super low caloric deficit, once they get off of it, they realize like, I don't want to be hungry like that anymore. I was starving when I was on it. So you naturally eat a little bit more because it's what your body wants, and so they gain a lot of the weight back. Or not all of it, but some of it usually. It can be tedious and time consuming to log all of your food and in the app, and it sometimes for some people can be obsessive, so you can get addicted to that. Not everyone does, but that's just a cautionary thing. Maybe you do. And like I said, it prioritizes weight loss as the goal, so it tracks your weight weekly instead of, like taking into consideration like how is your sleep, how is your strength, how is your stamina, like all those things. So now Optavia, it prioritizes small meals, frequent meals that are lower in carbohydrate and high in protein. So like, I mean, the idea of having high protein is phenomenal. Um, I mean, is lower carb great? I mean, depends. Some people like lower carb, but also if you're an active person, you need those things. So I think that there are some great things about it, that it does really try to prioritize vegetables and stuff. But meals are provided, and so you don't learn the eating habits or the meal prep habits of how to prioritize time. They're made for you. It is easy and efficient, so if you just want something sent to you, kind of like a Jenny Craig thing, it does seem pretty efficient. It is inclusive of dietary restrictions, so if you are soy, wheat, eggs, gluten, peanuts, or fish free, it does have different options like that for you. And you can also upgrade to a personal coach. The personal coaches are not registered dietitians. They same with Noom. They are, well, Noom, they might have some other psychological stuff. I don't know, but I know for Optiva, because I know people from my hometown that do that, it's just average people who have had success in the program, and they now like coach other people. Not saying that they're uneducated, it's just they're not registered dietitians. So they might be very educated or they might not be. It just depends on the person. So Optavia plans, there are different plans. So optimal weight, which is 4, 2, and 1 plan. So 4 of your meals are Optavia fuelings, and you'll see it in the pictures, like all those different boxes of things. So all those foods are sent to you. Every day you will also prepare 2 lean and green meals, so just meat and vegetables, and enjoy 1 snack. So optimal weight, 5 in 1 plan is 5 Optavia meals each day. So again, you're using all those boxed meals. So you necessarily wouldn't have anything outside of that 1 meal a day where you would be making your own meal. I'm sure it would also be like a lean and green meal. And then optimal health, 3 and 3 plan. So 3 balanced meals and 3 Optavia fuelings each day. So you're able to focus on eating balanced meals. And then the Optavia fuelings are like different bars and things like that, honestly. So it's like the optimal health 3 and 3 plan, it does seem like pretty normal. It's just that they're making you buy their stuff. Like what makes their granola bars better than other people's granola bars? You know what I mean? So that's just something to consider. The application of it is you need to eat 6 small meals a day, which can sometimes not fit into some people's lifestyles or their hunger cues. So like I'm working, I don't have time to sit and eat snacks all day, right? It doesn't teach you how to meal plan or prep, since the meals are just pretty much done for you. Especially if you have 5 or 4 of the Optavia plans, of the Optavia meals, you're only really prioritizing cooking 1 or 2 other meals, right? It still has processed foods, but they are Optavia brand processed foods, so that's something. It cuts out carbs. It's very expensive. You're paying for the convenience. So again, if you're someone who's like, I don't care how much it costs, I just truly want this sent to me, that's the person that probably would be getting this. Coaches are not registered dietitians and don't require any schooling. It is someone who has had success in the past with the program and now wants to help other people find success with that program as well. And it does prioritize weight loss as the goal. So in a sense, it's very weight loss oriented for tracking your progress. Next is Weight Watchers. So it helps you track foods by utilizing points instead of calories. And it's kind of like my Fitness Pal and logging meals and stuff. I have pictures. You can't see the bottom one, which I'm sorry. It just shows you the calories, proteins, and saturated fats, added sugars, and saturated fats, etc. Just different breakdowns of the food. But you'll see there are 0-point foods that you can eat a lot of. It is similar to my Fitness Pal where when you track it, it's all for each day. It does provide recipes. So a lot of people just kind of like the inspiration from this. It is $10 a month for virtual resources. So, I mean, it honestly is kind of affordable. And $25 a month for virtual resources, group sessions with a coach. So that is when you do weekly group sessions. So I think you literally go to like whether it's a Weight Watchers facility or sometimes they'll meet in like public places. So that's $25 a month. So I mean, it's a more affordable option than the other ones. Weight Watchers application is it can be helpful to be around a group of people on the same journey as you. So those small groups can really be helpful for supporting people. It is a fairly flexible program as long as you just follow eating a lot of the zero foods. It's just I've noticed people who have been on it, they are like afraid of eating. They're like low fat or fat-free cheese, fat-free cottage cheese, fat-free this, fat-free that, because the more fat there is in something, the more calories it is, and that makes it a higher point value. So even if it's like an avocado is still like a red thing. I'm very positive of. So it's interesting. It does great with trying to teach you what things are maybe lower in calories and maybe things you can fill up on more often, but it doesn't necessarily do what's healthiest because it would treat like a healthy fat the same as a not healthy fat. Coaches aren't credentialed. They are people who have had success on the program and are now helping others on that program. Works while doing the program, but is generally a temporary solution which allows the weight to come back after termination of the program. So the amount of people that I have worked with that have been on Weight Watchers, like they find it so helpful. Like I've lost like 50 pounds in 6 months. Like it really works. But then they stop doing it and it doesn't work anymore because they're not doing the program, right? So it's like you have to do this program to change your life literally forever to eat a certain way. And it's like you give up a lot of your favorite things. So it's something that you have to consider if that's important to you. It can be a lot of information to keep track of, tracking everything in the meetings and all of those things. It can teach you what foods are more nutritious and less nutritious, but it does kind of demonize certain foods. And it can lead to unhealthy relationships with foods because you may think like I'm going to eat unlimited foods of the zero things. And I mean, you can eat too much of anything and like get sick, obviously. And I'm not going to eat any of the bad foods. Like I'm going to only eat zero foods. So my score today is 0. And so it can just create unhealthy relationships with food. So now moving into resistance training. So commonly asked questions. A lot of people may wonder like, why did we put resistance training as such a high priority of this class with Junie and myself? And a lot of women are afraid like it's going to be bulky. It does not make you bulky. It will make you more toned in combination with a proper diet. So people want to get toned, right? You have to build muscle. So there's volume there, and then lose the fat on top of that muscle. And that's what looks toned. Everyone's always afraid they're going to get bulky. And that would be more so if you're eating really, really bad and resistance training, because then yes, you're just going to keep getting larger and larger, but you don't have to necessarily do that. It may prevent weight loss or lead to weight gain over time. So that's something that's important to share so you can lose fat and go down in pant sizes and lose inches on your waist and on your hips and on your legs and arms and everything, but you could stay the same exact weight because per volume, muscle does weigh more than fat, like per volume. So you could be a smaller looking person, but just very dense. So something to consider. Some people are like, well, I'm not losing any weight. I'm like, yeah, but you're down 2 pant sizes. So it can be a little bit of a mental struggle for some people. And then needed to build lean body mass to increase metabolism for weight management, which we know we want to have more lean body mass that boosts our metabolism and how much calories we burn throughout the day. And so you want to resistance train and build muscle. And it will improve your posture, strength, stability, mood, body composition, confidence, and overall well-being. And obviously decreases risk of fracture and injury. So another question is, when does menopause start? You know, maybe you and your friends have different times that it starts. So 12 months after your last period, when symptoms occur, like hot flashes, mood swings, etc., but monthly cycles are still occurring, you are in perimenopause. You are not yet in menopause. So like if you are having your period, you are in perimenopause. And some people can be there for like a year or two. It most often begins at 45 to 55, but it can be different for everyone. Usually lasts about 7 years, but can last up to 14 years, which kind of sucks, which might be like maybe your friends went through it quicker than you, but everyone is different. The duration can depend on lifestyle factors such as smoking, age it begins, and race and ethnicity. And then during perimenopause, the body's production of estrogen and progesterone will vary, and so that's where you're getting those mood swings and you're getting all those fluctuations of hormones. So another thing is there's so many different types of symptoms that you can have. So I just wanted to go through those. I know a lot of you guys have been through menopause already, so you might know this, but a lot of people, if they're just starting out with it, they're like, I don't understand like why I have had no symptoms. My friend has such a hard time sleeping. So hot flashes, you'll get heat in the neck of your face, red blotches on your skin, heavy sweating, and cold shivering. Lasts about 30 seconds to 10 minutes long. Will have decreased bladder control because your muscles are getting weaker and your bladder has muscles that allows you to release pee or hold it up. So if your muscles get weaker, that can cause poor bladder control. Going to pelvic floor physical therapy can be helpful for that to strengthen those. Sleep, so we can have a hard time falling asleep, staying asleep, or just be interrupted by being hot when you're sleeping. Vaginal health and sexuality, so dryness and making sexual intercourse uncomfortable. It can you can also change your interest in sexual interaction. So like it can increase it or decrease it. It's different for everyone. Mood, so it can cause depression, anxiety, or just changes. So like you're just fluctuating more often. Your body may just feel different. So the less muscle to fat ratio, more fat storage around the stomach area we talked about. Skin can become thinner, achy joints or muscles. Then also cognition can be affected. So memory problems or brain fog. Brain fog, not frog. So we're gonna go